Hello, Freedom Forgers. Hey, it's Patriot Gal over here at the Forging Freedom channel and podcast, and we're glad to have you with us this evening. Hey, how are my voice levels? I just want to make sure everything is good for you guys. Just give me a little feedback there. All right, we'll go ahead. Looks like we got 9 people watching. Welcome, everybody. Nice to have everybody out tonight. Planned on doing this a little bit earlier. But I wanted to get it all together for you guys and make sure we put together a good show. So glad you're joining us this evening. And this is going to be the first episode of, well, what I'm calling it tonight is the wisdom of our ancestors. But we're going to have a little contest to name the series, and there are prizes for the winner. So we'll get to that in just a second. But kind of what I've got in mind is something along the lines of I've got a bunch of stories. My little local newspaper here prints stories of the pioneers that founded the valley that I live in, and I've got some other pioneer type stories, homesteader type stories that I want to cover. And so I thought we'd make a series out of it that you guys could join in on once a week. And so I'm looking for a really clever name for the series. I'm not like super artistic when it comes to that stuff. So I thought I'd put it out there to you guys. Maybe we'll leave the contest open for 3 or 4 days to let people that couldn't catch us live chime in. And so I'd like you to submit your ideas to it's Forging Freedom Podcast at gmail.com. Again, that's forgingfreedompodcast@gmail.com. And Andrew, if you could put the link to the email up in the comments, that would be super great. So I'm thinking something along of the lines of using the words like wisdom, pioneer, homesteader, forefathers, something along that line. So glad to see everybody joining us. And if I miss you when you join, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just a little bit ADD and I've got to focus on one thing. Otherwise, I'm all over the place. So you are, ooh, I like that wheat tree. First walkers. That's great. So let's see. What are we going to cover? Let's see here. First episode. Checking my notes here. Yeah. So let me just tell you what you're playing for. You are playing for a $20 gift card to Amazon because there's all kinds of awesome homesteader gardening stuff on the Amazon. Everybody can find something they can use on Amazon. And also a 5-pack, 5 different varieties of seeds that have been grown right here at the Forging Freedom homestead. So I can tell you that one of the seeds that are going to be in there are the golden beets that I grew a few years ago, the seed that I grew a few years ago. So we'd love to send those out to somebody. So that's what you're playing for. Get those submissions over to me at forgingfreedompodcast@gmail.com. All right, so let me just give you a little update on what's been going on at the homestead. One of the things that we did this week is we built a frame for to put a row cover on to cover our Brussels sprouts. I've been trying to grow Brussels sprouts for, I don't know, 8 or 9 years now, and we love Brussels sprouts. I especially love to slice them in half and put a little olive oil in a cast iron pan and roast them with a little bit of sea salt on them. They're just delicious that way, and we love them. But we have tried and tried to grow them, and it's either the, if it's not the aphids, it's those cabbage moths, and I don't like to use any insecticides. I refuse to use insecticides at all, and so been fighting those little buggers. And last year I had a frame set up to put the row cover on, but it was not constructed well, and we had a big windstorm, and it just annihilated that thing. And I had it on a part of the homestead that I don't frequent often, and so by the time I noticed that the wind had taken it down, the cabbage moths had got a real head start on me. And so this year I found a guy on YouTube, and I apologize, I did not prepare his name in advance. I think it's 1 Yard Revolution is his name of his channel, but I will find it and put it in the show notes for you guys so that you can check this video out. But he shows how to construct a frame. I have, just to kind of give you the mental picture here. I've got 4x8 frames made out of 2x6s, and so I needed a frame that would fit on that to hold up the row cover. And so I watched this guy's YouTube channel, and he had this most ingenious way to make the frame. And so what you do is you basically take 1/2-inch PVC and then the caps that go over the PVC, and you drill a hole in the bottom of the cap, and then you use a grabber screw to screw that to the frame, and then you just arch your PVCs into those. And then he has a way where you use T's to connect the several arches, and it's just really sturdy. And then you put the whole thing on a hinge and screw it to your garden box so that you can just lift up one side and look in there. So it's been working out really good, and it's just super great to look in there and watch everything growing and no bug holes, and so excited. So I'm excited to see if that works out. Another thing I did this week is I built a second improvised rabbit tractor, and if you've watched my video on that, you see that I just kind of throw one together out of stuff that I have laying around. And so I'm trying to get the grass eaten down around the fruit trees so that I can put the cardboard. I'm going to put some bunny poo down, and then I'm going to put cardboard over that, and then I'm going to mulch on top of that to take out the grass so that the fruit trees aren't competing with the grass so much. So yeah, it's a frame, wheat tree. It's a frame that you build that sits on top of the garden box, and then you screw the PVC caps to that, and then the frame itself is put on a hinges that screw to the the frame that the PVC is on is hinges on that, and then you put the other half of the hinge on the garden box itself. So you can just lift it up from one side, check everything out, and put the whole thing back down. You can prop it up with a little short 2x4 if you need to get some air in there, but I'm not doing that. I'm leaving that thing locked up tight so them little buggers can't get in there. If I want to take a look, I can peek in there real quick, but I'm not leaving that thing propped up. No way, no how. So yeah, that's been pretty. I think that's going to be a game changer for some of our crops here. So I think that's going to be great. I also used that same technology with the PVC, um, and I put netting, over my strawberries, and that worked really good. And checked out another YouTube channel where a guy was taking. I use a lot of that half-inch mainline tubing. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. It's the black plastic tubing that you can, run water line to, and run water line everywhere, and it's for drip systems. Anyway, this guy had a bigger diameter of that, and he was just cutting like a 6-inch piece and slitting it down the side and using those for PVC clamps. So you put the netting over, and then you take this little clamp that you've made and snap it over, and it holds the netting on. And that's been working out fantastic. We actually had some, I think, 1-inch size of that, pretty thick walled stuff. It was actually some underground conduit, flexible conduit that my husband had a half a spool from a job site that he was on, and it works great. So I'll have to do some videos of that and show you guys that. So I just refreshed my page. Is everybody still there? Give me a thumbs up or something to let me know everybody's still tuned in. So the other thing that happened this week, actually, I think it was yesterday, was the yaks got out. And I don't know if I've told you guys, thanks, Andrew. I don't know if you told you guys, but we have some yaks staying at our homestead. We had sheep for a couple of years, and they really destroyed the pasture. And I just don't have enough ground for sheep, I can tell you that. But the pasture was really in bad shape. They had eaten the grass down so far, and it was just full of weeds. And so over the last few years, we have been trying to rehabilitate this pasture. And in that time, we've been trying to think of what we could put in there. We needed a small animal that would eat the grass down that would somehow benefit our homestead. And so that's why we went with the sheep in the first place, because it was small. But sheep were like rabbits. They reproduced a lot. I went from having 4 ewes and 1 buck to having, let's see, 8 lambs, 4 ewes, and 1 buck. And that was just way too much for what we've got going on here. So I was driving in my area, and I saw these yaks. And I thought, wow, they're kind of smallerish. And is smallerish, is that a word? But anyway, I wonder, if this guy wants to bring, a couple of yaks over there and let him eat my pasture. So I stopped. The guy was there. I talked to him, and he said, yeah, absolutely. He says that's kind of what I do, is I move them on different people's property around the valley. And so he brought them over, and I think they've been here for, I want to say, 2 weeks. Does that sound about right, Andrew? But I think it's been about 2 weeks. But there's a gate that we had on the frontage of the property. It's just like a chain link gate, but it was chained shut. And the yaks, they have horns, and they were over there, I guess, trying to rub their horns on the fence, and they hooked the gate and lifted it right off its hinges. And I was just getting out of the shower. I mean, literally just getting out of the shower, and as I was coming out of the bathroom, I saw some brown streak go flying past the sliding glass window, and I'm like, "What the heck was that?" So I stepped out, after I got dressed, I stepped out and just in time to see the last yak going over the hill. So I called the gentleman that owns the yaks. I said, "Hey, they're out." And I got in my car. I thought, well, I better go see if I can find them so I can tell him where to come and look. And they weren't too far away. They were about a quarter mile away up at a graveyard that's right near our house. They were in the cemetery, just like in amongst the headstones, and they were just munching the grass happily. So we just kind of kept them there. Um, until he could get his farmhand over there with the horse trailer and a couple of cowboys, and they rounded them up and brought them back home. So they are back in the field, happily munching away. So that was the yaks. It's been really cold here, like unseasonably cold. We've had some high winds. It's been really kind of crazy. And so today I just spent some time working on the channel, working on film editing, things like that. All right, we're going to wrap up what I've been up to, and we're going to get to the story. So the first story here that I've got, this is, we have our little Valley paper up here. This is from April 15th of 2017 issue, and it is called Farming and Livestock in the Valley, Part 1. So I'm just going to read this, and I may stop once in a while to give a commentary on some things that are maybe regional that you may not kind of understand. As you know, Utah is probably, I would say at this point, about 50% of the people that live here belong to the Mormon or LDS religion. And so there's some idiosyncrasies that you may not recognize that I'll try to point out for you to give you a little deeper understanding if they come up, because most of the pioneers that came here for religious reasons, and so that will play into it a little bit. So anyway, farming and livestock in the valley, part 1. Okay, farming was a way of life for the majority of the valley settlers in the early days. The late John Fuller of Eden, born in 1866, said in an interview, quote, "As a child, I used to go up to the foothills where I could look over the whole valley. The whole picture before me would wave in the breeze as the vegetation was so thick. The first settlers used oxen for work animals. The plows were forks of trees which merely scratched the ground. Plows were made later with wooden beams and iron shears. Most any crop could be grown in this virgin soil, but the main crops were hay, grain, and potatoes. These could be harvested before the early frosts." And I will just say that, living up here, we pretty much just have like a 4-month growing season. That's it. Sometimes it's only a 3-month growing season. It just depends on the year. And today I was looking at historic temperatures for our area, and just to give you an idea, if you look in the record low for May, June, July, and August, okay, record low, 19 degrees, 24 degrees, 31 degrees, and 23 degrees. So it can get kind of crazy um, up here as far as the weather goes. All right, so okay, here we go. So every family had a garden which supplied them with sufficient vegetables for their own use, but had little to sell. Nearly every settler had a few chickens and a few cows. Historian Andrew Jensen states that during those pioneer times, a wheatgrass, now called orchard grass, was abundant. It grew 5 feet tall and when cut, made good hay. Its Robert Burns planted the first lucerne, now called alfalfa, in Eden. He got his seed from a missionary. It is also said that Elisha and Ellen Wilbur brought the first watercress to the valley. A member of President McKay's family. Now, President McKay is David O. McKay, who was the president of the Mormon Church at the time. So President McKay's family said that some of the older sons used to gather the watercress from Spring Creek and sell it for 5 cents a bunch. And did you hear me say spring crick? Like that's a Utah thing, right? We call it a crick out here. So, um, let's see. Some autobiographies say that sagebrush never appeared in great abundance on the valley slopes until the advent of sheep, which scattered the seeds. See, it's those sheep. The tall grass was eventually killed out by overgrazing, and sagebrush took its place. This guy says, quote, "The hardest job I ever did while helping my father farm," unquote, continued John Fuller of Eden, quote, "was to clear new land. There was sagebrush higher than our heads. As it was plowed up, we boys would follow along, pull it out of the dirt, and pile it up ready to burn. We worked from 4 o'clock in the morning until we couldn't see any longer at night." David Chard remembers his father giving the kids a bag of peanuts if they would pull the weeds, called cockleburs, out of the farm. D.D. McKay wrote, quote, "The land at the bottom of the valley could be easily plowed and was devoted to the production of crops necessary to sustain life. Each individual had his own patch of land. The boundary lines between individual holdings were frequently a simple furrow or an irrigation ditch. They were unfenced because lack of materials and of the expense and of the large area to be enclosed. Land was homesteaded by squatting a claim and putting improvements on the land. For the first few years in the valley, the climate supported excellent forage crops for a thriving livestock industry. It was the job of early-day valley boys to herd the cattle off the planted fields until the crops could be harvested. In Eden and Liberty, cattle were herded by the boys on unclaimed land or on rented land, preferably on a hillside, for 50 cents a head. In Huntsville, the herding was done on either the south or the north fields. The town had a fence up between the two fields. From the biography of Lyman Douglas Bronson by Sarah Bronson Bowden, we learn that sometimes this simple task of herding could be hazardous. Well, his best pal, Droddy Wright, Lyman had many boyhood experiences hauling straw and hay and herding cows. While crossing a stream of water in the spring of the year to get to the cow pasture, the horses would have to swim. Taking a lunch, they would often stay all day. One day, Lyman tied his horse to the skeleton of a dead cow. The animal became frightened and ran home, leaving the boys. The question then was how to get across the stream to go home. Finally, Lyman said, "We'll drive the cows into the water and catch a hold of the last cow's tail." This they did, but the boys were too much for one cow, and Bessie and the boys nearly drowned. Happily, they returned home safely. They had learned a good lesson. There was an early period in Huntsville when the boys' responsibilities were lightened by the appearance in town of a likable old gentleman known only as Old Man Bachman. Research by this author discovered his name was Oliver Bachman and his wife's name was Angelina Johansson Bachman. He died July 1902 and she died April 19, 1911. Mary Doman Hislop informed me that this couple left considerable posterity in Huntsville, including Carlisle Doman, whom we all knew. The late D.D. McKay describes very graphically this man's impact on the town. In the tranquil hours of every summer morning, Old Man Bachman's horn could be heard progressively in the various parts of the town, giving notice to one and all that he was about to gather up the town's milk stock to take them to the hill to graze for the day. Men, women, children hurried reluctant animals towards the nearest point on the regular route. If for any reason they arrived at the proper place late, they either had to catch up with the moving herd before it crossed the first river, or they would mind their own cows for the day. Neither of these alternatives was easy to do. The general commotion caused by hurrying hoofs and impatient humans soon subsided, and the quiet, which was serene and peaceful, pervaded the scene. By the time the dust appeared in the morning sunlight above the oaks on the south hills, marking the progress of the cow herd towards its destination for the day, Everyone in the town had his breakfast and was in the fields, straining and sweating, producing food and forage and the things necessary to make life possible. Toward evening, above the oaks on the south hills, but now in the light of the setting sun, there appeared the telltale dust, announcing the fact that the cowherd was now on its way home. The dust disappeared off the oaks, and shortly thereafter the vanguard of the herd would be seen moving slowly, like a huge reptile, up Winter's Hill, where the rear guard was back at the second river. Shortly the herd broke into small bunches and scattered into every street, cropping grass along the ditch banks as they moved in the general direction of their own corrals. Simultaneously with the arrival of the cowherd in town, teams heading home from the fields could be seen on every road and lane. Humans and horses alike were tired and sweaty. The dust they kicked up rose slowly in the evening air, spreading out and settling into the adjacent fields. As teams with their human cargo followed the street, leading most directly to their homes, the driver meanwhile kept his eyes open to see if his cows were dawdling somewhere, like children returning home from school. If they were, someone from the wagon must hustle them home. Horses must be unharnessed and watered and fed, cows milked, calves and pigs fed before supper. Everyone was tired and hungry, and the sun was already behind the western hills. Old man, Old Man Bachman appeared with his old brass horn at the proper time in the valley history. He did his job well and quietly passed from the picture when the scene changed and the need ended. All right, that's the um, end of part one. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and hope you guys can hear me okay still. All right. Okay, so now we're just going to open it up to whatever you guys want to talk to. I'd like you guys to share what you've been up to. Looks like you guys are talking about chemtrails. Don't know what I think about that. I I kind of go back and forth. I mean, I see things that don't make a lot of sense. Grant Hubbard says, "Don't discuss politics or religion." Hey, we can all agree to disagree here. It's not a big thing, right? All right. So tell me what you guys have been up to this week. Give me some things to discuss. I know that Andrew has entered a giant pumpkin growing contest. Yeah, you have to come back next week for part 2. Got to keep you coming back. Let's see. Music's picking green beans. Do you know my green beans aren't even out of the ground yet? You must live somewhere warm. Music. Broccoli, cauliflower, eggplants, and Anaheim peppers. Oh, I love Anaheim peppers. They're so fun. Yeah. I've barely got I will say that I did plant my peas a little bit late this year, and I didn't plant the ones I planted early were just the pea pod, the snow peas. And um they're barely starting to get their little purple flowers on right now. Yeah, southern middle Tennessee. Yeah, that's so cool. The Texas boys is on the East Coast. Yeah, you're out of your element there, Texas boy. Went home to visit family. So cool. Are you a transplant to Texas, or have you just got family in the East Coast? It'd be nice to know a little bit about y'all. So yeah, so my snow peas, they're just barely starting to get flowers, and I love the flowers. They're so beautiful. My plan was to have the snow peas planted and grown and be ready to pull out of the ground about this time so that I could plant something else there. But we had a really wacky spring. Andrew can tell you he house sitted for me while we were out of town when we were down on our fishing trip, and you might have saw my video of our fishing trip that we took, and there's beautiful scenery that you can show you. I can show you there. Yeah, Texas boy, you're on the East Coast. It's pretty late for you there, so I appreciate you stopping in. So when you bail out, No worries. We appreciate you stopping by. But yeah, Andrew was house sitting for us, and we had like a really late frost. Frosted all my fruit tree blossoms, the peaches, the pears, the apples. They all got it. I don't think we're gonna get any fruit um, this year at all. The music well is pulling the rest of his peas to him or her. I don't know if you're a him or her. Um, Pulling the rest of your peas tomorrow. Yeah, I do the same thing. I have been I've got some early frosty. They're called early frosty peas, and I've been saving seed from them for probably about 10 years now. Um, okay, so you lived in the Northeast and moved to Texas 4 years ago. So you're good. You're not out of your element. You're in good hands. Oh yeah, your peas didn't grow, Andrew? I've never heard of such a thing. I thought peas always grew. The only time mine don't grow is when the chickens escape and get in the garden and take them all up. Okay, music. You're a he. I'll remember that. But anyway, so yeah, that's what's going on. Although my peppers are doing really good, the birds ate them. Yeah, that happens. If they see you planting them, I swear they sit there and watch you, and they'll go dig stuff up. I've had them do that with corn before. They'll just come right behind me and dig up the seeds. Um, but my peppers are doing good. I'm starting to see some peppers coming on, and that is because I had those in walls of water this year. And those walls of water, if you live in the cold climate, the walls of water are fantastic. They just, I mean, you can watch that video that I made where we had a snowstorm and it it froze, and the water in the top of the walls of water were was actually frozen, and the peppers and tomatoes were in there just being cozy. They were just fine. So so yeah, the peppers and tomatoes are doing fantastic. Let's see what else we got going on. I planted cucumbers the other day. I started my squash in the house and just um, transplanted those into the garden the other day. Our average last frost date in in our part of Utah is June 8th, if you can believe that. Oh man. So yeah, Andrew gardens down at his mom's house, and she lives about a half hour from us, but it's about 1,000 feet lower in elevation, and so they have a about a month. They can plant about a month ahead of us, and their average first frost date is about a month, behind us too. So they've definitely got a longer growing season down there. So that's where he gardens at. So let's see. Let me take a look at something here. Stand by. Okay, we're doing good. So let me just tell you a little bit about our. Unless there's something that you guys want to talk about, I'm happy to talk about anything you want to chat about. You've got a cat pack that takes care of the birds. That's awesome. Oh, my dog goes out and he's fine with the rabbits in the rabbit tractor. He wasn't fine with it at first, but he's, kind of let them assimilate. But I'll tell you what, one of them gets out of the rabbit tractor, he like chases it down. And it's good if you can't find them, if they get out and you can't find them, because he'll bring them to you. I mean, he doesn't bring them to you in his mouth, but they'll come shooting down the hill because he's flushed them out from wherever they're out at, and he gets them coming and moving around so that you can catch them and put them back where they belong. Squirrels and chipmunks and rabbits too. Oh, yeah. So he's a yellow lab, and they're just like, they live to hunt and retrieve. He's always bringing me dead birds, like dead magpies and dead robins. And he's like so proud of himself when he does it. Yeah. So anyway, but let me just tell you about our plans going forward. We are actually going to create um, a podcast that you can actually get on your iTunes. That is in the works, but it's always going to be available here on YouTube. Um, Always, YouTube family is where I first got started, and so we're always going to make sure we post the podcast here. But the reason we want to make sure that you can get it on iTunes and is because, or any of the other, podcatchers, is because sometimes you just want to listen to something. I don't know about you guys, but there are more YouTube channels than I can sit down and watch. And even though I would love to sit in front of the computer all day and watch all of these things, I just simply can't do it. And so we'd like to have it in just an audio format so that, if you're out gardening or you're out doing your chores or, you're, not sitting in front of your computer, you're driving, commuting, that you'll be able to listen to us and, multitask, do other things at the same time. So that's in the works. Um, so we're definitely trying to grow the channel. We'd love you to share our channel with people that you think might be interested in what we're doing. Don't forget the contest. I mean, the great thing about the contest right now is I think there's only been 6 or 8 people watch tonight. Not sure how many people will watch in the next couple days. We'll make let's see, today's Monday. We'll make the cutoff date. How about this Friday? So at midnight my time, which is Mountain Time on Friday, that will be the cutoff date. So if they don't have their entries in by then, well, we're sorry, but we're going to draw from those people that put entries in prior to the deadline. So get your entries in as far as ideas of what to call this series. We want this to be kind of a viewer slash listener directed program because we want to give you guys the things that you want to hear and that you want to do and make it for you guys. It's all about you guys. So, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that if you want to connect with us on Facebook, we have a Facebook group. It's called the Forging Freedom Tribe on Facebook. If you just search for the Forging Freedom Tribe, we will be happy to admit you to the group. And we'd love you to share your pictures and stories, anything that you are up to. We would love to see what you're up to and get to know you guys a little bit better. And Weetree, you gave your suggestion in the comments or you emailed it to me? I hope you emailed it to me because these comments disappear after this thing goes up on YouTube permanent like. Okay, um so that's how you can connect with us on Facebook. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about was first walkers. Okay, that was yeah, I did read that. Yep, I love it. Hey, I don't know how to say your name. Iva, Iva, Iova. Hey, I'm just gonna call you I for short. Short. I can't say that. Uh, all right, no problem, Weetree. You can you can put a in the comments, like the regular comments, if you don't want to do YouTube, and I've got yours written down, Weetree, so no problem. All right, so we welcome Ivo, Ive, IOV. All right. So anyway, we would love to do some more things, and we're growing just as fast as we can afford to do so. There is some costs associated with doing a podcast. I've already purchased some pretty substantial equipment. If you guys like the sound quality that you're listening to, it's because we've purchased about a $400 microphone and about a $300 mixer and some other equipment so that we could do a great job for you guys. And we'd love to just keep reinvesting and building a quality channel that you guys can feel confident in subscribing to, and you know that when you come here you're going to get our very best. So Um, One way that you guys could support us, we have put a few links to items that we use on Amazon in our videos in the comments section there. I don't know what they call that section. Anyways, the section that tells you what the show's about. And so you guys can, if even if you're not interested in an item that we use, if you just use one of those links and go do your regular Amazon shopping, anything that you shop for will, give us a small commission if you buy something, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. So we would love to have you um, participate with us on that and help us build your channel, because it really is going to be your channel. There, without you guys, we don't exist. If there's nobody to listen to my crazy ramblings or watch my videos, it really isn't a channel, right? So we would love for you guys to support us in that way if you can. Um, and we are probably going to set an account up on Steemit. um, Description. Thank you, Weetree. Yeah, like that's a hard one for me to remember, right? I'm just so used to listening to podcasts, and they always call it the show notes. So that's that's where I went with it. But yeah, the description. So we'll be putting some more items up there, and try to put everything up there that we use or find useful here on the homestead. But anyway, we are probably going to set up a Steemit account, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with Steemit. Some of the people that I subscribe to and listen to are using Steemit accounts. Probably the one that comes to mind the most is the American Homestead. And the reason for that is YouTube has been fairly sensitive about any oh gosh, any videos that have to do with um, butchering animals, which is kind of like essential on the homestead. We don't support pets here other than the dog, but he has his jobs that even he does. So um, hey, that's awesome, We Tree. Um, that you are going to Steam it, and Texas Boys just got Steam it approved. That's awesome. Yeah, we're gonna definitely pursue that because we don't want to be censored in that way. I just think it's ridiculous. I mean, YouTube has every right to do it. Hey, it's a private company. I'm very much a libertarian. I don't want to dictate to them how to run their business, although I do think it's a fairly stupid business decision. But I understand that some of the wacky videos that they were putting on there that their advertisers don't like. But really, I don't believe that those particular videos were the ones they were complaining about. I just think that they found that this is a convenient opportunity to make some political statements, because there's some awful, vulgar, nasty things on YouTube that they just think are just fine. So it seems like it's a very subjective criteria that they're using. And so, yeah, Steam it. Um, seems like, at least for now, that it's a way to go. It's very, it's Steam it is also a cryptocurrency. And if you don't know about cryptocurrencies, it's basically a electronic currency similar to Bitcoin. I won't go into that because I don't understand it enough to educate you on it. I understand it enough for me to participate in Bitcoin a little bit, and I also participate in Litecoin and Ethereum, which is another cryptocurrency. But I don't understand it enough to explain it to you guys, so do your own research on that. And on top of that, I definitely don't want to ever get accused of giving investment advice at all. So, yeah. So, I think that, yeah, it is a bad business decision, Texas Boys. It's like the stuff that you see in Hollywood. Like they, you can look at some of the movies that have done like super great, and you think, some really great family movies that you wouldn't be afraid to take your kids to, and you think, God, why don't they just make more movies like that? and it seems like a winning proposition. They do so good. Like look at the Harry Potter movies, like how good they did, and um, I mean, gee, it's just like we're so great. They just blew everything out of the water. Why don't they make more movies like that? And but they don't. They just there's definitely an agenda going on. Yeah, Viking Preparedness. I love his channel. Um, is he on Steam It? Did you say? Is that what you guys are saying that he's on Steam It? Yeah, American Homestead. Yeah, there everybody's like starting to figure it out that it's just um but you have to admit that YouTube you got to be on YouTube too, I think, because YouTube is the biggest, it's basically just a search engine, right? It's a search engine for how-to stuff. And some entertainment too, but mostly it's like people trying to figure out how to do something. And so it's like the Google of how to. And so I think it's a really good strategy, if you're operating a channel to have a really solid YouTube presence, but then if you're going to put a more sensitive video out, get on YouTube and tell everybody that you're going to make this sensitive video and that they need to come over to Steam It to watch it. And that accomplishes two things. It gets the information out to the people that you care about, the people you're trying to educate, and it also kind of is a stick in the eye to YouTube. And you might as you get like it's like a 2-for-1 sale. So it's great. So yeah, definitely looking into that. We'll get that going just as soon as possible. I do not do this full time. I've got more time to do it in the spring, summer, fall. In the winter, we run a seasonal business that is very full time, and we're going to try to get some more employees working on that so that I have more time to do this, because this is really the direction that I want to pursue. It's where my heart is. It's where my passion is, to share what I know, and not that I know everything, far from it, but I want to share what I know, and I want to search out other people who know awesome things and share those people with you guys. So that's the direction that we want to go. And the husband and I are looking at doing some traveling. And so, we need something to do, a business model that will travel with us. And so I think this is, kind of the answer to that. You can podcast, you can video from everywhere. Do you guys follow Justin Rhodes' channel? Does anybody follow Justin Rhodes' channel at all? He's doing a great thing. It's called. I'd encourage you to go over and subscribe to his channel if you haven't. But he's just a very entertaining guy, an awesome videographer. Self-taught, I do believe, but his editing and his videography is just it's fantastic. And he does a lot of homesteading type things. Well, right now, him and his family, I think he has 4 kids. Anyway, they are in a converted school bus that's been converted into um, kind of like a motorhome, and they are traveling around doing the I think they're calling it the American Homestead Tour or something like that. Um, something to that effect. But anyway, they've been traveling to all these different farms and places and showing lots of cool things. So anyway, that is what's going on with our mindset, is some things that we want to pursue. And it's just been so great to follow each of your channels. Those of you that are content creators, I think I've subscribed to just about everybody that's on this evening. And your content is private because of hate. Oh, that's too bad, Weetree. Yeah, there's just haters out there. It's like I was saying the other day, somebody could make a video of, baby kittens, like the cutest video ever, and, you'd get 6 thumbs down. Yeah, so, hey, Minuteman, thank you for stopping by. Um, so, yeah, the Great American Farm Tour. Thank you, Texas boys. That's exactly it. So, hey, I just refreshed my channel, so I think I think I missed like a whole bunch of stuff. Let me go back here. Okay, Viking preparedness. Steam it. Right. Yeah, I'm glad you caught a live show too, Minute Man. It's kind of fun. It's far easier to do these live shows than it is to edit a video. So I think we're going to be contributing. Not that we're going to stop doing videos, but we're able to, hang out with you guys so much easier doing these live shows. So I think we're gonna do that a lot more. Um, so let's see, Justin Rhodes is why the Texas boys started their YouTube channel. That's so awesome. Isn't it great? It's just such a time that we live in right now, right? Like where you can just like pick up your iPhone and create cool stuff. Um, it's just an amazing time. It's like I liken the opportunities that are out there right now because of the internet and hey, you guys, let's just be cool, right? Like we don't have to like do anything. Let's just chill. Like this is chill channel. So, um anyway, so yeah, I enjoy live shows as well. Um I enjoy some more than others, to be honest with you. Some of them they kind of don't seem too prepared, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but I'm kind of trying to be a little more prepared. I tend to ramble, so I'm trying not to do that as much, and trying to give you guys a quality show. So if you have constructive criticism, I don't mind. Personal attacks, they're going to be taken personal, but you know, constructive criticism and people that are more experienced than me, I'm always willing to listen to any improvements because what do they call that? I'm trying to remember the term. Um, oh shoot. Anyways, when you get a group of you together, you can always have more brain power than each individual by themselves. And so, anyway, I love that concept. I wish I could remember the term right now, but I'm totally drawing a blank. But anyway, so well, we're looking at an hour here, guys. And yeah, we're at about 58 minutes. So, um, again, if you could support us through Amazon, support us by sharing the channel. We're gonna start a contest, I think, next week I think we're at about 640, 650 subscribers right now. And we're going to definitely have a contest to get to 1,000. So if you guys can think of any prizes that you think would be cool and affordable, um, put those in the permanent show notes, the comments, because as you know, these live chat ones disappear. And we'll try to have a contest. I'm looking for ideas. Um, Let's see, cryptocurrencies. Yeah, you know what we'll do is let me try to find an expert on cryptocurrencies, and we'll try to get an interview down. I will. Hey, Amber Rivers, thanks for stopping in. We're about ready to wrap up. Darn it, you're a night owl, Amber. You're always up late. You're like me. You're just you're you're just a little night owl. Amber is such a sweetheart. We had the best time. I did a live show the other night, and it was basically just a test to test the voice volumes and for me to kind of figure out the technology. And did it really like at midnight, and didn't really expect anybody to maybe get on except some lurkers or something. Uh, but I just wanted to test everything out, and I purposely did it late at night so that if I screwed it up real bad, that the damage would be at a minimum. So, but we had the best time, and we ended up going for 2 hours, and it was just hilarious. And I don't think I did a good job of reading people's comments out loud and then answering them or commenting about them. because I listened to it later, and it was just like a lot of me randomly laughing and making a comment. And if you weren't there, it was like you kind of had to be there moments, you know. But it was a lot of fun. We had a blast. So anyway, you guys, I've enjoyed hanging out with you, and I hope to see you again next week. I think what we're going to try to do, if you guys are familiar with the Homestead channel, I think that's the name of it. Stand by, let me check. That Brad and Krista, oh, the Homestead Network, there we go. Brad and Krista have put together the homesteadnetwork.com. And as I heard Brad explain it one day, he doesn't make any money from that, but they are just trying to connect a lot of people. So you can go to the homesteadnetwork.com and you can click on show times, and you'll see a schedule there of when different channels are doing either a live broadcast or a podcast. And so what we're going to try to do is fill some of those time slots that they don't have anybody, or we're not officially associated with them at all. It's just that I don't want to conflict with everything they're doing. I'm trying to support those guys, and maybe they'll pick us up. I don't know, but we're going to try to pick some of those time slots that they're not using, so that if you're sitting down and you're watching some stuff, that you can pick us up too at the same time you're picking up some of their things. So if you haven't gotten over there to the homesteadnetwork.com, check it out. There's a lot of good channels that they have on there. And I think if you go to the home page of that, Brad has a short video that kind of explains to you the concept of it. And so yeah, so that's what we'll be doing, is kind of trying to get in. Did you on Minimount Homestead? Did you click the little bell on our channel to notify you when the show is live? If you click that little bell, it should give you a notification. Hey, Guido, nice of you to stop by, buddy. Um, all right, so yeah, we're uh, you guys. Okay, let me ask you guys. We said that this is a uh, this is a listener supported channel, listener directed channel. So, do you guys want to um, end the podcast and go on your merry way, or should we go for 30 more minutes? Okay, we're taking votes now. There's 9 people watching. Vote now in the comments. Let's see, homesteading shows. Weebly.com is another list of live chats as well. Okay, cool. You rang the bell but didn't get a naughty oh, a naughty hug. What does that say? Didn't get a. I don't know what that says. Amber says, stay, stay. I know, Amber, because you just got here. 30 more minutes, Midman Homestead says. Okay, all right, that's 2. I haven't heard any no votes. Let's see. All right. Noti? Oh, you didn't get a noti. A notification. Gotcha. All right, Texas boys, I completely understand. I appreciate you hanging in this long, and I watch your channel. You guys are awesome, doing great work. I love to see your boys being involved in something like that. I just think it's so positive. So you rest well, and we'll catch you next time. All right, so we're going to continue to go for another 30 minutes here. And if I'm going to do that, I'm going to need something to talk about. So you guys need to give me some ideas of what we can chat about. Um, do we? Andrew Allred says he can stay a while longer. That's great. Just let me know when you got to check out, Andrew. I don't see that we're really having troll issues, so that'll be good. And yeah, so one thing that I have that I'm thinking about making a series out of, and see what you guys think. I have just a treasure. I have about 3 or 4 boxes of World War II letters that my grandma and grandpa wrote to each other from the time that my grandpa got drafted all the way, through the war. And it talks a lot about, the rationing and the different things that they were going through. And they were young star-crossed lovers, so it's a lot of I love you, kissy kissy, huggy huggy stuff. But there is some real gems in there. Just to give you a flavor of one of the things that I read was my grandpa telling my grandma, because they had just built a little house. In fact, if I remember the story correctly, they had a lot, and my grandpa found like an old chicken coop somewhere, and he drug this chicken coop to the place, and they retrofitted it and made it into a little house. Like, the Department of Sad making you sad would never let you do that now, right? God, we had so much more freedom then. It's disheartening, but that's what this channel is all about, is taking our freedom back. And not that we're starting a revolution or anything here, but we kind of are starting a revolution. We're starting a revolution in our own lives, and we're just like, I'm not going to take it anymore, and we're going to try to encourage people to do things to make themselves more self-sufficient, more self-reliant, and to rely less on the systems that kind of make us prisoners. um, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Amber. Well, I'd love to share these with you. My grandparents, I was so lucky. I knew both my both of my great grandmas on each side of my family. So my mom's oh, how can I say this? My mom's side of the family. So her dad's mother was alive, and I remember her. And my mom's mother was alive, and she lived until she was 98. So she was alive into my 20s. So I really got to know her really well. And so yeah, this I did a podcast the other day, and it's on a recorder that I have. I have not posted it yet, but in that I do remember saying something that I would really like this, community that we're building here, to be the family for some of you guys. I realize that, I've been very lucky that I came from a family with, both sets of grandparents alive. Mom and dad did get divorced after I left for college. But and then and the family's kind of blown apart since then. But there's so many people that have not the ideal family situation, and I absolutely do believe in the two-parent family, the traditional family. I believe in the traditional family. Let me just say that. I think our society was much better off when most people were involved in a traditional family setting. And I realize that, there's a lot of stuff that, has kind of blown up in people's lives, and not everybody has that. But I want this to be a place where, that ideal can be reinforced, and that if you don't come from that type of family, that you can find family here, and be part of this family. And just, I want to spread love, happiness, and we're not going to do a lot of debating here, because even though families, real families fight, I just really want this to be a safe, good, comfortable place for everybody to hang out and to be part of. And down the road, we're going to create some meetups. I think we will try to do some meetups in different parts of different parts of the country, because I'm out here in northern Utah. Most of you guys aren't close to me out here. And so, we might do like a Western meetup. We might do a, middle of the country meetup, and an East meetup when our numbers grow a little bit more. So just there's enough people to justify doing something like that. But I think that would be like so fun to meet some of you guys in person. I just think that would be awesome. So, Amber says, let me, let's see. Yeah, Amber says that she wants to hear more about my place. So we live in northern Utah. We live in the mountains. We live at about, I think our elevation here is about 5,500 feet. The mountains around me are at about 8 to 10,000 feet in elevation. And so we live in a mountain valley, basically. And So we live on 2.25 acres, but probably I would say, if you take the part that the house is sitting on away, we probably have about an acre and a quarter that is, usable, um, usable land. The garden that we have now, I have tried all kinds of different gardening methods. I have done the Mittlighter system. I've done the square foot gardening. I've done just regular gardening where you just till a row and plant. And I would say that what I do now is kind of a hybrid of those systems. And we do plant most of our stuff in 4x8 grow boxes. And I used to do the square foot method, but now I've kind of hybridize that. I do use the trellises that are described and tell you how to build in the square foot gardening system, and they are fantastic. You build them out of 1/2 inch metal electrical conduit, and you can get a tubing bender to bend them, and they are simply indestructible. And I'm going to do a video soon. I did buy the netting that he suggests in that book. It was kind of spendy, I will say. It works good, but the squares in it are such that when you're trying to weed that back row, the row closest to the netting, when you try to weed through that to that second foot, 2 feet out, trying to reach that row that's in the middle, very difficult to weed through that thing. Found my face pressed up against the mesh as I was trying to read and reach in there. And so what I've gotten to since then is a making my, using those frames, but making my own trellises out of baling twine. And I'll do a video on that, how I go about that. But that's fantastic. Um, it was worked out really good. That way I can make the squares the size I want. And, um, you know, makes it a lot easier to work with. I'm just trying to read some of your comments here. Tell she couldn't go no more. Yeah, the reason I went to the square foot gardening system, I used to, the land where I garden is not level, for one thing. So irrigation was completely out. Uh, I tried to use the watering system for the Mittlighters where you drill the holes in the PVC pipe, and it was okay. Um, but what I've gone to since then, our ground is nothing but clay. I mean, if you live in Georgia or somewhere like that, you totally get what I'm dealing with. It's like clay and stone. So, like, if I was to dig up a gallon of my dirt, I guarantee you that about half of that gallon would be nothing but stones. And they just keep coming up. I swear I'm just like right on a clay riverbed. And so that was just super frustrating, So by doing the garden boxes, initially, I want to say I started this about, it's probably been close to 10 years now. So initially, I started out with just buying bags of Miracle Grow soil and filling the boxes up, and then I started building the soil from there. Now I've just, I just add bunny poo and leaves and things like that, to the mulch. I've got some large pine trees in back of my house, and they have really long pine needles, and I use that for mulch. There's a green waste site down at in the city where they shred up the just trees and branches and stuff, and you can go down and get a load of that for $20. So we've been mulching with a lot of that. I don't think they allow like regular lumber in there, so you don't get any of that pressure treated lumber or anything like that. It's just branches and leaves. Um, and so been mulching with a lot of that. I've been doing a lot of cardboard mulching this year, and if you watch my video on uh, growing, harvesting the oregano, you'll see a little part in there where I mulched the raspberries with the cardboard. And man, that solved a huge grass problem for me. So I am just really excited about the results I've been getting with mulching with cardboard and then putting mulch on top of that. And so that's been working really great. I bought, if you guys haven't heard of a company called, let me see if I can get this right, Coldstream Farms in Michigan. I think it's coldstreamfarms.com. If you want to buy trees, they have trees of all different sizes and they are cheap. I mean, they are dirt cheap. You can, buy trees for like $1, $1.50. They're not big trees, but they have big trees that they sell, but they sell so much. So I think I got about 50 elderberry from them, and I've got some those pine trees. Like the pine trees that they use at the White House when they do the big Christmas tree. It's that type of pine tree. I want to say Norwegian pine. I don't know. Anyway, I got a bunch of those that I've planted out in front of the house. And I mean, even if some of them die, like they're so cheap, you don't even care because they're so cheap. Um, Andrew and I, his mom lives in a house that was built by his grandpa, and it was built right next to his great grandpa's house. And it used to be a big orchard, and we managed to get some rootstock from about a 70-year-old apple tree this year. So we've planted that here on the homestead and got some starts from that going. Super excited about that because if the trees live 70 years in this area, then it means it's pretty hardy stock. So we're excited to get that going and start doing some grafting on the apples. And I've got like a ton of places where I can go get apple scion wood to graft onto that. So we'll be showing you some of that, our attempts at that. Never done it before, but hey, I'm always up for a challenge. And so yeah, we got a lot of interesting things planned, and excited to share those with you guys, and also excited to see what you guys have going and follow you on your channels. Just pause for a minute while I take a drink. Yeah, so um anyway, we don't know what kind of rootstock this is, or even if it is rootstock. I mean, this tree may just be on its own rootstock. But whatever it is, it's hardy. So we've got a video coming out about that, and telling a little bit of the history of that tree and that. So that's in the can. Needs some editing. I'll be working on that. So well, guys, I've got 18 minutes here. What else you want to hear about? Somebody give me a topic here. I'm just going to refresh my page and see if I'm catching everything. Just refreshing here. Yeah, it says my stream health is yellow, so I think that's not bad, but it's not great either. Close down a couple of my tabs here, see if that makes a difference. There we go. What kind of food do I grow? Well, I have been growing, been trying to grow things that I can store or can. So I've been growing some, let's see, I've been growing beets, turnips. I've been drying turnips. I like to throw them in stews. Carrots. Um, let's see, I've grown potatoes. Definitely trying for those Brussels sprouts that we talked about earlier. Grow broccoli, cabbage, uh, basil. I love to grow cilantro too. I have a recipe for a cilantro pesto that is so gosh dang good. I mean, you either love or hate cilantro. People are like in two camps on that, but um, this cilantro pesto, I just absolutely love it. I could eat it like every day. So I am loving the cilantro pesto. And I think the same recipe would be good with basil as well. I love to grow Thai basil and make um, uh, spring rolls. You know, the fresh spring rolls. If you guys love those, it's so fun to grow. And I've got some seeds for some stuff called culantro, and I've tasted it before. It tastes exactly like cilantro, but it's a Asian vegetable, specifically Vietnam, I believe. And I've been wanting to grow some of that, but I was reading on that, and that's something that has to be started pretty early in the year. You're in the other camp, yeah. Some people say it tastes like soap or it tastes like um, dirty socks or something like that. You know what's interesting though is, and I'm going to be doing a video on this, and I'll give you guys a little preview. A couple of years ago, you know, because I was fighting the aphids on the Brussels sprouts, I was looking up, you know, I had bought some ladybugs, and I turned them loose at night, just like they say, and like within 4 or 5 days, there wasn't a ladybug anywhere to be seen. And so I thought to myself, well, maybe I don't have the right habitat for ladybugs. What type of plants do they like to live in? And I found 5 plants that will hold your ladybugs, that they love to live in, and it'll also attract ladybugs. And so I'm going to be doing a video on that. And but one of the plants that I will tell you is cilantro. When cilantro goes to seed, it makes an umbrella-like flower, and the ladybugs love umbrella-type flowers. And they will, um, you know, they hang out there while they're not hunting down your aphids. So it's a good plant for that. And then also, I don't know if you don't like cilantro, you might like to let it go to seed, because the seed is what's known as the spice coriander. And coriander, fresh coriander, tastes a lot like lime. It's delicious. And then the dried coriander kind of has I can't really describe it. It's kind of a spice that, you know, you'd imagine that would go good with ginger or cinnamon or something like that. It's something that when I taste it, I think, gosh, this would be good in cookies, you know. Um, so yeah, you know, that's one of the plants that will attract ladybugs. So if you don't like the taste of cilantro, and I know it bolts really easily, like as soon as it gets hot, it's just like trying to bolt. So it's something that you can plant early in the spring, and you know, by the time the plants are out with the aphids, that the aphids like, they can, you know, have something that they can hide in from predators, because you know, birds like to eat ladybugs. So yeah, so I had bees for a while. I had built some um, top bar beehives, and it's a long story why I don't have the bees anymore. It was kind of a comedy of errors and some bad luck and some mistakes that we made. But I think we're definitely going to get bees again next year. Um, that, but we're going to use the regular type hives simply because they're much easier to manage. Now, if you're on a budget, top bar beehives are easy to make. You can, you know, make them yourself out of scrap lumber. But I just don't have the time to invest into managing the hives that way. I need something a little easier to manage. So we're going to probably go to the Langstroth hive. Um, but yeah, the bees came really late this year, right? I have seen them out in the last couple weeks. The bees have been out on my raspberries, and the bumblebees were out. I've got two different kinds of bumblebees that I've observed here. One kind likes to come to my chive blossoms. I almost exclusively see bumblebees on the chive blossoms, although this year I think there was such a shortage of blossoms with the weird spring that we had. I saw the honeybees getting on there, but as soon as the raspberries started to blossom, the honeybees moved over there. And it was about 55, 60 degrees today. And I went out to feed the rabbits, and there was a couple of honeybees working out there. But it's just been such a weird spring. It hasn't been all that wet, but we've had some real uh, cold spells. Um, but anyway, yeah, love bees. I love to just just watch them. I just think they're amazing creatures. And so we're definitely going to be getting some hives again. And there's certain things that you can plant too that will attract the honeybees. I the same day that we got the apple rootstock from Andrew's mom, we also she gave us a gift of some lemon balm, and I hear that the lemon balm attracts uh, the bees as well. So we're hoping for that. We'll find out as soon as this thing goes to blossom. Well, hey guys, I've gone almost a half hour after I said that I would, but I think that I am going to end this podcast and um, just give me 1 second here. And I love the fact that you guys have stopped by and appreciate you giving some of your valuable time to us. And we will, there we go. We will see you next time. And remember to do something today, or since it's kind of late, do something tomorrow to increase your freedom, to forge your freedom for you, your family, your friends, and all those around you. Remember to do good and love your fellow man. That's the reason we're all here. So have a great night, everybody. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.